Over the past 48 hours, we just entered the most dangerous phase of the coming hot war with Russia and China, and no one is prepared for what's coming. Everyone but a few smart people are actually ignoring it. Look at CNN, top story about Burning Man. What about Fox News? Nope, it's all about DeSantis. But don't fall for it. It's all a misdirection. Look over here while President Biden is caught taking millions of dollars from foreign companies. So what's a good way to distract from a crumbling economy if you're President Biden heading into an election season? Start a war with Russia. The Biden administration quietly laying out a plan to make it impossible for any future president to keep us out of a hot war with Russia. By the way, Russia has already said that this will lead to direct war with their military, and China is standing by, ready to jump in. So according to the Wall Street Journal, what the Biden administration did is astonishing. They introduced a plan to permanently fund Ukraine's proxy war against Russia, and the structure would make it impossible for a future president to undo the plan. So what is the likelihood that in the next few months we are involved in a nuclear war with Russia? Colonel Tony Schaefer says 80%. And he agrees with Tucker on this. And he says we are headed for a nuclear war with Mother Russia.
Do you share Tucker's view on it?
The answer is it's very likely. I put it at the 80% likelihood. Vladimir Putin, who is not bluffing, he is doing what he believes is necessary to protect the Russian Empire, the Russian Republic. It is what it is. And George, the West, England and the United States in particular, don't seem to be listening to him. He's been very clear about what he's trying to achieve.
Well, Russia is not bluffing. They've now put their nuclear arsenal on the highest alert possible for the first time ever. Quoting now, the nuclear-capable Sarmat intercontinental ballistic missile system was previously touted by President Putin as being capable of hitting any target on Earth, and is widely believed to be by far the longest-range missile in Russia's arsenal. And it's been nicknamed by NATO the Satan II. Nice name, Satan II. The timing of all of this is on purpose, of course. Putin is not bluffing. This warhead can wipe out a country the size of France. Just one rocket, and it can't be shot down. Putin says, quote, the new complex has the highest tactical and technical characteristics and is capable of overcoming all modern means of anti-missile defense. It has no analogs in the world and won't have for a long time to come. In other words, nothing can stop it and nothing can come close. Oh, good. So why don't we keep poking the bear, President Biden?
And at a critical geopolitical juncture, fears of a Cold War, and rather you would call it Cold War 2.0, those fears remain prevalent. In the latest, Russia has warned of an escalation if American nuclear weapons return to British soil. Now, this, as some recent reports have revealed, a possibility of this happening. US deployed its nuclear weapons in Europe during the height of the Cold War, but the number has significantly dropped since then. However, the latest revelation has definitely irked Russia, which warns of an imbalance in the region if the US goes ahead with this. Now, firstly, let's go through what the recent reports are talking about. The Federation of American Scientists, which monitors US nuclear activity, recently reported that the US Air Force budgetary documents imply that it is going to re-establish its nuclear weapons mission in the UK. Now, these documents mention the construction of a surety dormitory at the Royal Air Force Lakenheath base. Surety, it's a military term, it's jargon that is commonly used to refer to nuclear safety and security. Now, the Federation of American Scientists report reveals that the construction of the facilities scheduled to begin in June 2024, and that is essentially what Russia is complaining about now. They do not want to see this happen, and it is expected to be completed by the end of February 2026. The plan is very much laid out. The blueprint is ready. Now, the anticipated move by the US has drawn strong reaction by Moscow, and obviously it comes as no surprise. Russia was definitely not going to be happy with this move. It calls the move a destabilizing practice. Moscow alleges that the move entails joint planning and practice for nuclear attacks on Russian targets. And not just this, Russia demands that the return of all US nuclear weapons to American territory be done right away. Now, this is what the Russian Foreign Ministry had to say about it. If this step is ever made, we will view it as escalation, as a step toward escalation that would take things to a direction that is quite opposite to addressing the pressing issue of pulling all nuclear weapons out of European countries.
The civil war in Syria is taking yet another turn, with clashes between rival factions of a US ally erupting in the eastern city of Deir ez-Zor over the last week. There are fears that the ethnic violence is spreading to other areas and could suck in additional actors, not least the 900 US troops and air power deployed there. The trigger was the arrest by the Syrian Democratic Forces of one of its own commanders tasked with securing Deir ez-Zor. Brought together by the US to destroy the Islamic State, the SDF is a coalition of Kurds and Arabs. Most of the commanders are Kurdish, but the detained Ahmed al-Kabil is Arab, sparking a backlash from Arab and Turkmen tribes in the region. As tribal and militia leaders issued calls to arms across social media, fighting spread. In northwestern Syria, Arab tribal fighters sympathetic to their peers in Deir ez-Zor captured 2 villages in Aleppo province, only to be pushed out hours later by Russian airstrikes, demonstrating the kaleidoscope of twisted alliances colouring the map of Syria today, and the danger of contagion that this new fighting represents. Meanwhile, the Islamic State, the threat that led to the SDF's formation, is diminished, but not defeated. In neighbouring Iraq, a French Special Forces soldier was killed last week conducting counter-terrorism operations against the group, showing it remains active in the region. More than a decade after the start of Syria's civil war, an endpoint to the nation's bloodshed seems as distant as ever.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un is expected to meet Vladimir Putin. Kim Jong-un's rare foreign trip to Russia will likely take place later this month. The United States says that Kim Jong-un will discuss providing arms to Moscow for its ongoing war in Ukraine. Now, as per New York Times, Kim is likely to head by armored train to Vladivostok on Russia's Pacific coast, which is not far from North Korea, to meet with Putin. And the two leaders would discuss sending Russia artillery shells and 19-tank missiles in exchange for Moscow's advanced tech for satellites and also nuclear-powered submarines. Well, the news of Kim's planned visit comes after Russia said that it was discussing holding joint military exercises with North Korea. News agency Yonhap earlier cited South Korea's intelligence agency as saying that the Russian Defense Minister Shoigu, who paid a visit to Pyongyang in July, had proposed to Kim that their countries should hold a naval exercise along with China. Now, last week, US said that it was concerned that arms negotiations between Russia and North Korea were advancing actively, and that Shoigu had tried this during his visit to convince Pyongyang to sell artillery ammunition to Russia. Now, Russia and North Korea have recently called for closer military ties, but Pyongyang has denied having any arms dealing with Moscow. The US recently imposed sanctions on 3 entities it accused of being tied to arms deals between North Korea and Russia. Pyongyang is one of Moscow's close Cold War allies and also one of a small handful of countries to back Russia's annexation of various parts of Ukraine in 2022.